Welcome to the PIO podcast. I am your host, Robert Tornabene. I have been a PIO for over 11 years with 27 years of law enforcement background. Welcome to season 2 of the PIO podcast. I am working hard to bring you the very most diverse crowd of subject matter experts in the public sector field. You can help grow the podcast by sharing it with friends and colleagues. Please give the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you listen to. So sit back and enjoy our next episode. Good afternoon. Today on the PIO podcast, we have Todd Harmeson. Tom is a Public Information Officer from Indiana. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Tom, you and I have met many years ago in a training class, and we've only interacted on social media since then, but it's really great to have you on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, I enjoy the opportunity. Love listening to your podcast, and now not only do I get to listen, I get to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were somebody I wanted to get on there, but one of the guys that follows the show, he goes, "Oh, you got to get Todd on. He's got a lot of background." And I always knew it. It just, I had a group of people I was trying to go through a list. I'm like, I'll throw them in there for the new year. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. Lots of exciting things have happened over the years, and love to share some of the PIO experience. And I think one of the things, and we'll get into it, so many times we always talk with PIOs from these large, big agencies. And then, there's just as much, if not even more, public information that can be done on the small agency as well. And that's what I hope to talk about today.
Absolutely. And that is one of the things that we'll talk about. So let's talk a little bit about your background, because you've got a really broad background in emergency management and law enforcement. So why don't you tell our listeners about that?
Sure. Well, I started out as a cadet in emergency management at 16 years old. 35 years ago, I started in public safety, and it was just something that I knew I wanted to do since I was a young child. And I got involved in it. My first PIO function was in 1996 for Vermilion County, Indiana, which is right on the Illinois-Indiana border. And for those folks that are maybe not familiar with that area, it's very rural, but we were also home to the United States Army, had this little facility there called Newport Chemical Depot, home of the VX agent. And so we were funded by FEMA and the U.S. Army, and I was the full-time public information officer. And that's literally how I got my feet wet in the field. And from there, did that for about 3 or 4 years out of Vermilion County, and then decided I wanted to go back home. Anderson, Indiana was my home, where I was born and raised, about 80, 90 miles to the center part of the state from Vermilion. So we're just outside Indianapolis. And went over there, worked for Madison County Emergency Management for, almost 30 years before I left, and got with the local fire department here. But that whole time I was a reserve police officer. Oh, and wow. So I did emergency management, and then I was a reserve police officer. And and I still am today. Obviously, that's what you had reached out to me about, was the law enforcement side of it. But I left emergency management and got with a local fire department there in Chesterfield, where I'm a police officer at. So it's kind of unique, because I do social media for the police and the fire. So I have that opportunity to really, we talk about it, amplify a message out to the public that I'm able to push out through 2 different sources of social media. And I think that's pretty unique.
That is very unique to have the ability to do both across 2 different areas. And it does amplify your reach greatly. How big are the 2 departments?
So Chesterfield Police Department it's a small community. We're a couple thousand people in our community, and we have 6 full-time officers and about 15 reserves. And then the Chesterfield Fire Department, which just ironically, as of January the 1st, 2022, this year, became the East Madison Fire Territory. We merged with another agency, and we're about 50 square miles now, 2 stations. We will be going full-time personnel, expanding our personnel in July. We'll be adding to it. But right now, we're a paid part-time fire service.
Excellent. Let me ask you this. How many platforms are you running with each agency for social media and outreach?
Yep. So for the police and fire, we really I mirror a lot of the platforms. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and then we just did with the new East Madison Fire Territory. We have a YouTube channel as well. That in this year, in 2022, it's our goal that we want to start doing more on YouTube and start sharing more video, because as we all know, the public likes to see the warm, feel good stories, and they like to watch videos of local hometown heroes.
Absolutely. Video is definitely king. If you look at the fact that TikTok has taken over everything, and I'm not saying anybody should go on TikTok and use it as a platform, but I'm just talking about that 15-second to 3-minute video.
Yep.
And how powerful that is, and how much of a message you can send if it's been done right, how you can get your message across. So definitely video is going to be king and continue to influence how we as PIOs do our job. I want to talk about something. You received an award from the police department there. Let's talk about that.
So for 2021, each year, our Chesterfield Police Department, we give away 3 awards at our annual banquet. And that's the Major Gary Rudig Award, the Officer of the Year Award, and then our Top Shot Award for marksmanship. And the Major Gary Rudig Award, Major Rudig passed away, line of duty, not really line of duty, but he was still an active officer, died of pancreatic cancer back in 2011. And he dedicated his life to the Chesterfield Police Department. He mentored so many of us when we joined the department, including our current chief, Chief Ingalls. And so we started an award. And in 2014, I actually received that award. My oldest son was diagnosed with testicular cancer that year, went through all the cancer treatment, but I still was always there for the police department, was able to take care of my son. He's perfectly healthy now. We're blessed with medicine and all that. Thank we're God. Able to take care of him, but so I received that award in 2014. And then this year, the officers, we all vote amongst ourselves on who we want to receive the awards. And the officers voted that I would receive the Officer of the Year Award for 2021. I am a reserve officer, but I've been through ILEA, or the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. I'm a trained FTO, and also one of the certified instructors for the department. And just whenever I can give back to the community and my department, it's covering shifts, it's helping other officers out if they need a day off, and just trying to be there in the community. This year, I actually moved my family, my wife and I, we moved to a smaller house, and we moved into the town there. And so I love being in that small town environment and, nice. And working and go to dinner, shop, and spend time right there in the community where I've served as a police officer.
Outstanding. So I'm going to shift this a little bit. I want to talk about the pandemic. We are just starting year 3 of this whole nonsense, and
yes,
it's definitely impacted the way we as PIOs do our job. And my question is how has the pandemic impacted your messaging and your communication?
Well, it really, when the pandemic began, it was educating the public. What was the pandemic? What did we need to do? How could we protect ourselves, our community, our families? And so at Chesterfield, we did a lot of amplifying the message that came out of our local health department. I actually, when we first originally formed the incident response team that was ran by our health department, I was the public information officer. They came and asked me to represent the health department and manage all of their social media as well for them. And so I did, and we used the smaller agencies in the county as an amplifier. And if we all spoke with that one message, which we were able to do, we were able to demonstrate to the public the importance of the masks and taking precautions. And I think that was so important with everything we do, even today in emergency services, when it's one message coming from multiple agencies and the public sees that unity. That's so important for public information today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, it's such an interesting tie-in. You're in a smaller agency, smaller community, but then today's podcast that just aired with Jonathan Baxter, one of the things that he was talking about was the fatalities that they had experienced with visitors coming into San Francisco and then going to the water and then drowning because they were unaware of the dangers involved in the water. And he went to the outlying areas and the municipalities and asked them to publish these messages. And he created this one unified message about water safety and where not to go and what not to do. That's the same thing that you were doing basically there, having
Absolutely.
that single message, which eliminates all kinds of misinformation and poor information and or just the lack of information that we saw early on in the pandemic.
Yeah, very much so. And I think because we are, I mean, our whole county, in relative to other jurisdictions that you've had on, Madison County as a whole is about 110,000 people. So our whole county is smaller than many of the large cities and metropolitan areas that you've had. So for us, the message is, I almost think it's a little bit easier to get the message out for us because of being a smaller community. The public sees a face, they know me as a public information officer, they know our commissioners, they know our health director. And when we're able to put those kinds of messages out to the public, they can relate to who we are because we are that face that they see on social media regularly. And I think that's so important for no matter what size of an agency. It's always representing your agency and being the face that when the public sees you or they hear your voice, that they know that you are a person that can be trusted and that you're the go-to spokesperson for your jurisdiction. And that's what we were able to do during the pandemic when it first started.
Where do you see as we emerge from the pandemic? They were just talking about this in the news about it's going to become an endemic where it's just daily life. Yeah. Where do you envision how we will communicate, and not necessarily about the pandemic, but how are we going to communicate with our communities in a different way?
Yeah, I think what you've seen is you're going to see this more holistic incident command approach on the PIO standpoint that, fire service has always led the way in incident command. Law enforcement, we're trying to get caught up, but we know we're behind the fire service. But now you're starting to see more joint information centers come out of the PIO world. And, we just had down in Kentucky, the devastating tornadoes down there. And our good friend was down there working as PIO. And, he ramped up and was part of their joint information system down there. And I think you're going to see more of that now. As incidents do occur, whether it's a large tornado or a large structure fire, all of these PIOs starting to come together and being able to amplify each other's common message of what we want to tell the public to keep them safe.
And that goes, interestingly enough, with the amount of weather issues, disasters that come out of weather related, whether it's the cold and ice and stuff that's currently hitting the East Coast right now, or the South, the Kentucky, Tennessee area. They've gotten a 1-2 whammy with the tornadoes and now the cold and ice. I think that's true that we, as a group, that messaging that we do to continue to put out proper information about safety and what you need to do and who can help you, and those are things that we need to continue to build upon. And the JICs, oh my God, they're so important.
They are. I mean, that is, and for new public information officers or even a veteran that has not experienced it, I mean, that is our incident command system for the public information world. And again, I say it, the fire department is light years ahead of law enforcement when it comes to setting up incident command during these types of criminal events. But if we can learn from that as a public information group, we need to be sharing that information and helping our peers. If your neighboring community is going through some sort of an event, whether it's an active shooter or some other large criminal event or natural disaster, reach out to your peers next door and say, hey, can I help you? If nothing else, go and just be watch social media for them and kind of take some of that administrative burden off of the home jurisdiction that's already going to be inundated, because let's face it, there's not many of us out there.
No,
There's not many PIO departments that have 8, 9 people that can manage, these major disasters. So we all have to work together.
and that goes to building those relationships when times are good and when there's nothing going on. Yeah. Go out, meet them, have coffee, or have a regional meeting with 10 or 15 different PIOs to say, hey, when things go bad, here's my number. Give me a call. Or if you need something, I'm going to call you, those kinds of things. And then get it cleared with your administration, because obviously there's mutual aid, but they don't necessarily think of the PIOs and the mutual aid end of it.
Yeah, we do just that here, Robert, in Madison County, about twice a year. We just had one right before the holidays, invited all the PIOs in Madison County. And there was about 8 or 9 of us that we got together for dinner. We had a spokesperson from WTHR NBC 13 that came and talked to us. And, it was more of a social event. I know most of the reporters around, but some of the newer PIOs that are trying to learn and have sort of fallen into the following in my footsteps, enjoyed that event, and it was great. So we do that twice a year. Sometimes we get 3 in, just depends on everybody's schedule, but we do that. We call it the Madison County Public Information Task Force. And that's the idea, is that if we, one of us has something large, we can call upon the other PIOs, and we're not introducing ourselves in the middle of an incident. We already know who each other is, and we can just call them and say, hey, John, hey, Bob, hey, Sally, get over here and help me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great way to do it. Absolutely. So what have you found to be the most challenging aspect of being a PIO in a smaller agency?
Being overshadowed by you big guys.
I am no big guy.
Well, the Chicago Metro is.
I'm a big guy, but yeah, I'm not a big guy.
Yeah, we're just close enough to Indianapolis. We sit at the 34-mile marker, so we're 34 miles outside of downtown Indianapolis, and we're literally a mile outside of the city of Anderson, which is the county seat. City of Anderson's about 60,000 people, 60,000. And of course, Indianapolis is the state capital. So many times we do things as smaller agencies, and it's overshadowed by the big dogs, the big guys. And we actually talked about that. It's funny you brought this question up, because we talked about it at our December PIO meeting. The representative, Mike Orr from WTHR, he asked that question. He's like, what struggles do you guys have? And we told him, we said, there's so many things, like Chesterfield Police Department. Every year we do Christmas for Kids, where we raise money throughout the year, and then we take usually about 32 different families and we take them shopping. Local Meijer store helps to sponsor, and they match the funds that we raise. And and it's a very humbling event for all of the officers, but the public they love it. I mean, we'll post pictures of it and just get thousands upon thousands of views and likes from it. But you won't find that on the news, because Indianapolis goes into shop with a cop, and there's so many things like that. And, so that's where we use our local social media to reach the public that we are most caring about, is our local residents. And that's how we get our message out to our citizens, is through our social media. Our local newspaper is a big supporter of public safety in Madison County as well. And they do that. It's kind of funny. It's these feel good stories that people love to see. And there was a KOA campground that we have in our jurisdiction. Over the summer, they had a big like bubble machine out there. And they have a lake and a sand beach area, and they had rented this bubble machine. And I was on duty. It just happened to be on one of my shifts. And here I am in full uniform, minus the duty belt. Didn't want to get that leather wet. And I'm out there in the middle of the suds, and I am covered from head to toe in suds. And that thing hit Facebook and hit our social media, and tens of thousands of likes on just those silly pictures.
Yep.
That's what the public loves, and I always say it, and I know you've heard it, and I can't say it enough, but it's those little deposits that we make into the feel good bank, because someday, knock on wood, I don't want it to be today, someday we're going to have to do a withdrawal.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen, whether it's an officer arrested for some crime or a shooting, or something's going to happen in our community. and we need to be able to go to the bank and do a withdrawal and have our public support there. And, we are, like I said, we're blessed, a small community. They really do support us.
And you know what? And that is why we do get those positive messages out there, like you said,
absolutely.
Because if you don't, if you are absent any messaging in any way, shape, or form as an agency, you lose out on building that trust and relationship with the community. When the bad thing happens, the community may be a little bit more accepting or a little bit more willing to listen first before they make a judgment.
Absolutely. Yep. You are very correct.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How are you guys handling monitoring and the interactions via social media?
You guys, well, how I handle it is
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I say you guys. Yeah, it's the Chicago thing. Use guys,
Yeah, use guys. Yeah. Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
I use Hootsuite. I do love the app, the software, and then really as a public information officer, I've built my day. I get up every morning, check my calendar, check social media, see what's trending for the day, see what responses people have made overnight, respond to it, start my day, go about my business in the office, do what I need to, check it throughout the day periodically, and then I end the day with checking social media and responding to public. It is so important to be able to build your day and work that into the schedule. I try to make it my point to at least hit the like button, if not interact with just about every comment that the public makes on our social media page, if possible.
So important to interact and engage when it's a question that's legitimate,
Yep.
Or at least to direct them to where they can get whatever information they're looking for. If it's a one-way street where we're just pushing it out and we're never,
you don't get that rapport.
No, you don't.
You don't have that rapport with the public.
I mean, and the public wants to know that you've seen what they posted, if they posted something. So liking it is very important. And I do know that there are those agencies that feel nervous about interactions. There are, I know that is a concern, but I think the concern is it's minimal if you handle it the right way.
Absolutely. And we are blessed, and we've had instances where people have started to make comments negatively about our police department, and I don't have to even respond to them. I can sit back and the public will handle the dirty work for us.
Isn't that so nice when you can just sit back and let the public do the battle? And you can stay out of it.
Ooh, especially in our little community. Boy, they do. They will let people have it.
And that's because you've put things into the bank, and the community knows you're out there and you're in the community, and the way you do things, that helps. And that's the best part of that banking of goodwill, because the community will just do it for you.
Yep. I like to say our bank account right now is pretty full. We'll continue adding to it and making those investments. So
that's outstanding. What things would you like to see change in the role as a PIO?
I think, one of the things I'd like to see change, at least specifically for our department and the area where we're at, is I'd like to see more video. I know that's something the public really enjoys. It's time consuming. It takes resources to be able to do the videoing and then the video editing and publishing. And, we're blessed. I have the equipment to do it, and it's just finding the time. And I even have several officers that are willing to go on camera and do fun things. Over the years, I've gotten to where, the guys and gals will send me pictures that they capture of good things happening in the public. And early days, that was hard. The PIO can't be there 24/7 and just lurking in the back corners ready to take a picture. And, we finally have gotten to where the officers will acknowledge that. And I think they like seeing themselves on there as well. And their families have talked it up, and as well as the chief. I mean, they know that the chief is 1,000,000% behind social media, and that is that's the golden ticket right there.
Yeah, definitely helps. But I think you can see where the value of what you do as a PIO has paid off for your agency, where all of a sudden your officers are now hey, I got an idea, or I'm sending you this photo. Can we
Yep.
get this out on Facebook or whatever platform you might? When you start to see that buy-in, you know that they've seen what you're doing is right and the messaging that they approve of.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped, and maybe a newer department can do this. We started the lost dog. Every small town has lost dogs, and that's what really started. The officers would send me a picture of the dog, and I'd get it posted. And I could say there's only a couple dogs in the years that we've been doing this that we've not been able to reunite. And most of the time the animals reunited in half hour to an hour at the most.
Right.
And the officers started seeing that on social media, and it took the work out of it for them. Heck, if I could send Todd the picture and he'll post it and the owner will call me, I don't have to do anything. And and that, hey, let's face it, that's police officers. If we, the least we can do and get away with, we're good with that. And the officers found that successfully returned the animal to the family. The chief was happy, and if the chief's happy, you know what that means. The officers are happy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so let's lighten this up a little bit. So let's go to some rapid fire questions. Football, baseball, hockey, soccer, your favorite team?
Oh man, is there any other team but the Indianapolis Colts? Come on now. We didn't quite have a good year this year, but let's give us a break. It was rebuilding, right?
Oh, well, there's always rebuilding years. Always. Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
What is a must-read book in your mind?
My favorite book that comes to mind all the time when people ask me about it is a book called Leadership, Rudolph Giuliani. Absolutely love that book. I loved reading about the politics and everything that happened in New York City and 9/11. And that's just, can't say enough about that book.
Outstanding. I'll put that in the show notes. If you could sit down with anyone living or deceased, who would it be and why?
That'd be my grandfather, one of my grandfathers. He was the first grandfather that I lost, and I would talk to him every couple days. He lived in Florida basically my whole life. And I was blessed that we were able to visit several times a year, but every couple of days I'd talk to him, and he always wanted to know what I was doing and what his great grandchildren were doing. And he just was such a support person. And if I could sit down with him today, we'd just have years to get caught up, and he'd be proud so much of everything that's going on.
That's outstanding. Favorite drink of choice?
Coke Zero. Don't hear that very often, do you?
Not that specific, no, but
yeah, I love my soda, and Coke Zero is the one I have to stick with for health reasons.
There you go. That's okay. Final thoughts, anything you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate you having me on here and giving me the opportunity. And I think that, small town policing, small town public safety is so vital on social media to use the tools. And, can't stress enough, network with your peers and your neighboring communities, because someday you're going to need the help. Lord knows I have here. That was one of the things that really got social media going in Madison County. We had a police incident that involved a suspect took his own life. A citizen was at the wrong place and lost his life. 2 police officers were shot, and a canine was killed back in, I think it was like 2011. And that we use social media to tell people in the community, stay indoors, stay safe. And at the end of the incident, we put the police chief out there on the social media, and that really catapulted back then where we're at today. And that's just so important. We had to use other agencies to help us, and we all had a public information program, and we amplified each other's messages.
Outstanding. And it's a great way to sum it all up with everything that's going on in communities nowadays, small and large. And it's a small town PIO and somebody that has to work with 2 different agencies, and then you're the go-to for the health department as well. Todd, what don't you do?
Well, I stick with the police and fire, and it's just, when other agencies need assistance, I'm there. I'll help out, step in as a PIO, and give guidance to anybody that asks for it.
Well, outstanding job, Todd. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And that's Todd Harmeson from the Chesterfield Police and Fire Department.
That's correct. Thank you very much. You can follow us on our fire. It was East Madison Fire, which is our new territory name. And then it's Chesterfield _PD for the police department.
And I'll add all that into the show notes. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you much. Have a great day, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to contact the show, please email us at thepiopodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified of the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows reviews, please give us a review. We appreciate any review, good or bad. It helps us improve on each episode. Until next time, be safe.